Unforgivable betrayal. These two words sound like a nightmare for any relationship, don't they? I know because I've lived through it. A sin that nearly destroyed my marriage and revealed a secret I never imagined could exist. Have you ever been through something like this? Have you ever had your trust shattered, your heart broken, and worse, discovered that the person you trusted was capable of something so cruel? Well, in today's video, I'm going to tell you everything about a story that, although it may seem fictional, is more real than you think. I uncovered a secret that changed everything, and you'll understand how the pain of betrayal, no matter how impossible it seems, can be the starting point for a new life. But to know what happened and how I transformed this experience, you'll need to watch until the end. And before you continue, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell, because the story I'm about to share might be the key to changing the course of your life too. Shall we begin? The story you're about to hear, although involving many painful details, is based on a real account of infidelity sent by a subscriber, someone who decided to share their experience, though with a few details altered to protect the identities of everyone involved. Infidelity stories like this happen all the time, and although they are incredibly painful, they carry powerful lessons about human nature and the bonds we create. You may wonder why we're addressing something so sensitive, but the truth is, when it comes to betrayal, there are common elements that arise, and if not identified, they can further harm the emotional well-being of those involved. With that in mind, the story begins with Raphael, an ordinary man, living in what seemed like a stable marriage, but that was slowly being eroded by a series of small yet significant flaws. Like in many infidelity stories, things don't happen overnight. There are small, almost imperceptible signs that only become evident when it's too late. If you're reading this, maybe you're starting to notice these same signs in your own life. What do you do when your wife begins to pull away, seems more distant, more concerned with her appearance and work than with you? This is not just a detail, it's a red flag. Unfortunately, many people ignore these signs. Raphael, at first, tried not to believe what was happening. Who wants to face the truth when it's something so painful? However, he began to notice that his wife Helena's behavior was becoming increasingly strange. She spent more time at work, changed her look frequently, and, without realizing it, he started to feel disconnected from her, as if he was losing the woman he had once known. Have you ever felt like that? As if the person you loved most was drifting away, and you didn't know why or how it was happening. One morning, Raphael made a discovery that would change everything. He found a mysterious gift box hidden at the back of Helena's closet, with a card from a man named Gabriel. What seemed like a simple gift exchange turned out to be something much deeper and more disturbing. The romantic words written on the card and the signature left Raphael in shock. It was as if, suddenly, he was looking at a truth that had always been in front of him, but that he had avoided seeing. Have you ever had the feeling that something was wrong, but you forced yourself not to see it? Sometimes, the truth is right in front of us, waiting for us to have the courage to accept it. As an ordinary man, Raphael tried to understand what was happening, but it wasn't easy. Doubt, insecurity, and distrust began to dominate his mind. He couldn't simply ignore what he had found. In moments like this, you find yourself in a dilemma. Follow what your intuition is telling you or pretend that everything is fine. Raphael's decision was the most logical and perhaps the hardest of all. He could no longer live in the dark. He needed answers, no matter how painful they were. For those facing the same dilemma, the question is always the same. How far would you go in search of the truth? The solution Raphael found was to hire a private investigator to dig deeper into the situation. He knew that the pain of facing the truth was inevitable, but he preferred to know the reality, no matter how difficult it was, than live a lie. This is an important choice that many avoid, and for good reason. Facing betrayal is undoubtedly one of the most painful things someone can experience. But sometimes, the only path to healing and a new beginning is to confront the situation head-on. How would you react if you were in Raphael's shoes? Would you accept the evidence, or would you deny it, hoping everything was fine? The private investigator Raphael hired went beyond the initial suspicions and uncovered a truth that was even more painful than he could imagine. Helena was, in fact, having an affair with Gabriel, a successful businessman she had met during a business trip. At first, Raphael was in shock, unable to believe what was happening. How could she be so cruel, so cold? But, like in many infidelity stories, there was more to the betrayal. The revelation that Helena was pregnant with Gabriel's child was a fatal blow, one that he never imagined he would have to face. This wasn't just about an extramarital affair, it was about a completely new life she was planning without him. In his search for answers, the detective also discovered that Helena and Gabriel's plan went beyond a simple affair. They were organizing an escape. Gabriel had apparently promised Helena a life together, far away from all the problems and responsibilities. The betrayal that Raphael was experiencing was not just emotional, but also a break from a planned future. If you've ever found yourself in a situation where you discovered that something much bigger was at stake, you know how devastating it is to realize that it wasn't just a mistake, but a carefully orchestrated plan. What would you do upon realizing that, in addition to being betrayed, the person you loved had planned to abandon everything you built together? Now, Raphael was facing the harsh reality that his wife, with whom he had built a family, was involved in a deep betrayal. Helena hadn't just cheated on him, she was pregnant with another man's child and was also planning a future without him. In moments like this, there are no easy words or simple answers. What Raphael felt was a whirlwind of emotions, ranging from anger to complete despair. When betrayal is so deep, the pain is something that cannot be easily expressed. But what many people don't understand is that when you reach this point, you are faced with a crucial choice. You can either get lost in the pain or decide to move on. And many times, the decision to move on is the hardest, but also the most liberating. Devastated and not knowing where to start, Raphael made a difficult decision. He would seek a lawyer and initiate the divorce process. It wasn't just the end of the marriage, but the beginning of a new life that he needed to rebuild. Helena's betrayal had not only broken the trust he had in her, but also shook the foundation of what he believed was his family life. The pain was unbearable, but he knew he couldn't continue living in that lie. He thought about his son, Pedro, who was only 6 years old, and the impact this would have on his life. As a father, Raphael knew that the first thing he needed to secure was Pedro's custody. When a betrayal involves children, the situation becomes even more complicated, as you're not only dealing with your own pain, but also with the pain of another person who is completely vulnerable. During this period of uncertainty, Raphael felt as if he were trapped between what was right and what would be easier. Many people, when they find themselves in a similar situation, choose to settle with the pain, trying to maintain an appearance of normality. However, Raphael decided that this was not how he wanted to live. He knew that the divorce process would be long and exhausting, but at the same time, it was the only way to begin healing his wounds. If you've ever been in a situation where the pain seemed unbearable, you know that, despite the difficulty, the first step toward recovery is often the most important. And in this case, that step was making the decision to move on. As the divorce process unfolded, Raphael couldn't help but wonder if there was something more he could have done to prevent all of this. But the truth is, infidelity is something that often comes without warning. No matter how much you try to prepare, the blow is always unexpected. The pain of betrayal in marriage is unique and very particular. Even though Raphael was trying to move on, there were moments when he questioned whether he would truly be able to rebuild his life. For many, this doubt is one of the hardest things to cope with. Is it possible to find happiness again after such a devastating betrayal? While Raphael was recovering from the betrayal and facing the divorce process, Helena, desperate and trying to save what was left of her marriage, sought him out. In an attempt to win Raphael back, she suggested they go to couples therapy, begging for his forgiveness and promising she would change. But deep down, Raphael knew that the trust had already been destroyed. It wasn't just about Helena's mistake, but about what he had lost with the betrayal. Her apologies seemed empty, as if she were more concerned with her own remorse than with the real consequences of her actions. He felt shaken, but not willing to give in to that request. Sometimes, the pain of a betrayal is so deep that an apology is simply not enough to restore what was broken. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where someone's apology didn't make sense because the damage had already been done? Despite being deeply hurt, Raphael did not succumb to bitterness. He decided that he needed to start over, and soon met Mariana, a woman he had met at a social event. Mariana wasn't a stranger, but a loyal friend, someone with whom he had shared good moments before Helena's betrayal. And, as often happens in many betrayal stories, the pain ends up creating new opportunities. Mariana became an outlet for Raphael, someone he could talk to without fear of being judged. The connection between them grew slowly, but with a foundation of respect and trust. When the heart is broken, what we often need is not someone who consoles us, but someone who allows us to feel the security that we can be ourselves again. With Mariana, Raphael felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, the sense that he could rebuild his life. Helena's betrayal, despite being devastating, led him to this new possibility. As a mentor, I would say that when something important in our lives breaks, we need to have the courage to rebuild based on what we've learned. Pain and loss should not be seen as an end, but as a chance for rebirth. Raphael, who once thought his life would end with Helena's betrayal, now realized that life always has something new to offer. And the beauty of his new relationship with Mariana lay in their ability to allow themselves to move forward, without carrying the weight of the past. Have you ever had an experience where, after great pain, something good came from it? How did that change your perspective on life? Over time, Raphael and Mariana began to develop a solid relationship, although cautiously. While the pain from Helena's betrayal still lingered in his mind, Raphael was learning to live with it, without allowing it to control his life. He knew that the road to recovery would be long, but he felt that Mariana was giving him the chance to genuinely start over. At the same time, dealing with Helena because of Pedro, his son, was becoming increasingly difficult. For Raphael, living with his ex-wife after the betrayal was uncomfortable, but he understood that, as a father, he needed to create the most harmonious environment possible for his son. The family dynamic had changed, but Mariana's presence brought a new energy into the home, something that had seemed impossible before. Although family bonds could be broken by betrayal, new bonds could also be formed, as long as there was goodwill and respect. At first, Pedro resisted the new situation. For him, Mariana's arrival wasn't just a change in the family structure, but a threat to what he had always known as his safe world. After all, as a child, he wasn't to blame for Helena's infidelity and couldn't understand why everything was changing so quickly. However, over time, he began to realize that Mariana wasn't a threat, but someone who cared for him. As they spent more time together, Pedro started to accept Mariana into his life, seeing her as an important figure, not to replace his mother, but to provide him with the support he needed as well. A child's love is simple but genuine. What we can learn from Pedro is that no matter how painful changes may be, time and affection can help soften the impact. Seeing Pedro beginning to accept Mariana, Rafael felt a sense of relief, as if, finally, he was starting to rebuild his family in a new way. The pain that once seemed unbearable was subsiding, not because what happened with Helena could be forgotten, but because life was somehow offering a chance for something healthier. Although the betrayal had devastated his marriage, it also forced him to seek a new perspective, both for himself and for his son. The story of betrayal that once seemed endless now appeared as a painful but necessary chapter for personal and familial growth. The ability to find peace after pain is a skill that few develop but is essential to moving forward. Have you ever experienced that feeling of reconstruction when, even after a loss, something good started to emerge in your life? At the height of the story, Rafael discovers that Helena's betrayal was even deeper than he had imagined. When he thought everything was clear and that he had already found the truth, a new revelation came to shake his trust. Helena, who had seemed like the main culprit, had actually been deceived by Gabriel, the man she had the affair with. Gabriel, the successful businessman with whom Helena had become involved during a business trip, was actually married and had kept his relationship with her a secret. Helena believed that Gabriel was her chance to escape her monotonous and dissatisfied life, but the reality was that he had used her, leaving her alone and unsupported when the situation didn't go as he had planned. For Rafael, this discovery was another blow. Not only had he been betrayed by his wife, but also by someone Helena had believed was the key to her happiness. This made Rafael question just how far lies could go, and how people could deceive themselves in search of something they thought they had lost. This new discovery also showed Rafael that betrayal is often a vicious cycle. Helena wasn't the only victim in the story. Gabriel also had his own lies and hidden motives. What Rafael needed to understand is that when there's infidelity in a marriage, it doesn't only affect the people involved, but spreads, affecting everyone around them. The pain of betrayal multiplies, and there are no winners in a story like this. For those facing betrayal, the lesson here is that it's important to analyze the situation from different angles, without falling into the temptation to blame just one side. Often, there are more layers than we realize. A betrayer's actions are, in many cases, a reflection of their own insecurities and fears, and understanding this can bring some perspective to what seems like a hopeless situation. Now more mature and resolute, Rafael realizes that his situation with Helena no longer has a solution. Even knowing that she tried to come back to him, asking for forgiveness, and suggesting they start over, he no longer had room for another mistake. Love, trust, and respect had already been broken, and the pain was too deep to be erased by empty words. What Rafael found was that the most important thing wasn't what Helena wanted or expected, but what he was willing to accept for his own life. He finally made the decision to move forward with Mariana, someone who, despite all the difficulties, had always been by his side with loyalty and affection. And so, The story of betrayal that started with pain and suffering came to a conclusion that, though not perfect, brought the peace Raphael had been searching for. Because, in the end, inner peace is the true reward after a devastating betrayal. Now, I want to ask you a question. How would you deal with something like this? How would you react if you found out that the person you love, the person you trusted, was deceiving you so deeply? Betrayal, despite all the pain, can be an opportunity for a fresh start. It's not easy, and I won't lie, the path can be long, but it is possible. If you're going through something similar, don't let this experience define who you are or what you deserve. It's time to take control of your life, to rebuild, and perhaps even find something stronger than before. And if you like this video and want to keep learning about how to overcome life's challenges and find your peace, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. It's going to be a transformative journey, and I want you to be with me on it. Comment below, share your thoughts, and let's discover together how to turn the page and write a new chapter. See you in the next video.